Welcome to Bold Talk series where creativity, leadership, ideas, and innovation come together. My name is Epi Ludvik, and today I have a privilege to have a short one-on-one conversation with Ori Inbar, founder and managing partner of Super Ventures and CEO and co-founder of Augmented World Expo. Ori, great seeing you. Welcome to our Bold Talk series. How are you, man?
Hey, Abby, so good to be here. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, Ori, it's been a long time, man. First time we met was at the early days when you started the augmented reality meetup. This was like early days when it was like the blip parts of the world and the application, the phone. Let's get back to your early years, all right? So before augmented reality, and then we get into it. What sparked your curiosity for tech and what moments shaped your ambition to pursue it?
Yeah, I mean, when I went to school, since the very beginning, the goal, the mission, the vision was to try and bring together tech and experience. But initially I started as a programmer in some enterprise internet company. It was acquired, but in 2007 I decided to leave to look for something new, something that would capture my imagination. And I came home, to spend time with my kids, as they say, and I realized they're always in front of a screen, and I was kind of frustrated. How do I get them to experience the real world? To play outdoors, to play with things like I have grown up. And the answer, of course, wasn't to try and tell them, don't spend time on your computer or in video games, but try and bring those two worlds together. And I thought that could be a really interesting thing. I thought I invented something new, but then, of course, did some research and realized there's something called augmented reality that, people have been thinking about this for decades. It was kind of hidden in labs around the world, and nobody knew about it, including myself. So very quickly it became the mission to try and bring this to fruition to everyone out there. And today, almost 20 years later, I think we're on our way.
Yeah, I got the conviction. I wasn't sold back then because I saw how slow the process was. Right? I knew it at one point it would become big, but my real conviction started when I saw Apple get into this game. What was your feeling at that time when Apple announced that they're going to the augmented reality spatial computing?
I mean, I agree, that was like an inflection point in the industry. But if I look back again, when I started in 2007, there were a few like that felt big moments, but they were only kind of a milestone. It really, really kind of changed the industry. So, there was Google Glass, there was the HoloLens, Pokemon Go reaching 500 million people. And then later, even before the Vision Pro, Apple and Google jumped into the software, the tool side for AR on smartphone with the AR Kit for Apple and the AR Core for Google. These were really amazing moments that it felt like, all the big players are jumping in. But then, yeah, you're right. I mean, I think when Apple announced the Vision Pro, I guess that's June 2023, the whole attitude changed. You saw all of a sudden reporters starting to talk about XR, AR and VR as a real thing. And also all the big players started to kind of improve their game. Samsung immediately kind of thought about, how do I match what they do and kind of announce my own product. And Google, I think, also kind of accelerated a lot of their plans that were somewhere in the drawer. And Meta, of course, as well. I mean, they already had a few products out there, but you could see that they're improving their products, they're improving their tools, and are really taking it a lot more seriously. And also investors, Andreessen Horowitz, probably one of the most influential investors out there, once, like a little bit after Apple made the announcement, said that XR, AR and VR are probably the most underrated markets in the world. And that kind of showed the fact that Apple had major impact on the whole industry.
Yeah, I can imagine. Thinking about the venture capitalists, let's go back a little bit to your super ventures, right? What kind of founders or idea were you looking for that the traditional ventures capital space may probably have overlooked?
Yeah, that's a great point, because when I always saw myself as kind of an ecosystem builder to really help this industry move forward
I
through
mean,
events and through.
you are. I mean, I remember like those meetups in those days, man. You were like, you were all in. How many people I know that are like around you that they're no longer in the space, right? But you went all in.
That's right. Yeah. And the idea was to do anything that is necessary to help advance it, whether it's, putting together meetups and then events and writing about it and, advocating for it with corporations, with startups, advising. I think I've mentored about 2,000 startups in the last 2 decades, all kind of focused on XR. And it felt like, still it was really hard to get investors to really understand what this is all about. So in 2015, a little bit after the Facebook acquisition of Oculus, investors started to really to pay attention. $2 billion gets their attention, but they had really no idea where this is going, where to invest. So it felt like, this is the right time to create an AR and VR focused early stage investment fund, which is Super Ventures. Brought together an amazing team of veterans in AR and VR, and our mission was first, to help identify some of the early leaders in the different categories, because it's a whole ecosystem from hardware to software to tools and apps. So want to kind of map that world and also work with other investors that were kind of looking into the space to help them understand, where this is going and how to place bets. So it was partly sort of an activist role as an investor, and of course partly finance oriented role to kind of really make good bets. So again, I think we looked at the map of the entire ecosystem and made a few bets, from hardware, like how to create displays for all sorts of sporting and motorcycle activities, which was one company eventually acquired by GoPro, and then tools to map the environment and be able to kind of scan and create a 3D model of the environment, which later was acquired by Niantic, and another was Snap and Apple and so on. So it was really kind of seeding the industry with the important tools and apps that are necessary to advance this whole industry.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And you're probably one of very few who truly getting it right, because you have the intelligence, you have the community, you have the network, and to be able to get to the right innovation space, you're really well positioned for that. Now with AWA, Augmented World Expo, now a global platform, how do you maintain that sense of a community and innovation across continents and cultures? I believe you're doing multiple different events in different continents, right?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I cannot say that I always got it right. I had many false starts and many things that didn't go right. But the thing is that, it's something that is also, I think, a characteristic of the XR industry. If you look back at when it was invented in 1968, people can't even understand that. It's all about vision and persistence. And you see people in this industry for decades struggling under the, outside of the limelight, in labs, in basements, and then eventually kind of able to bring it to fruition, to the market. The same applies for this community. I started probably the first AR meetup in New York City in 2008. And it was basically because I was lonely. I didn't see anyone that is working in this industry. So that was kind of a way to bring together the few people that were working on it. So, like a dozen people. And then from there, it started to grow. And when we started AWE, originally called Augmented Reality Event in 2010, in California, we had about 300 people in the room. And that was incredible to see. I mean, at that time was so many people. What's really fascinating is that a lot of these people are still in this industry, whether it's on the enterprise side or the platform side, or, people building startups. I just counted that out of the 20 startups exhibitors that we had back in 2010, 3 are still alive and kicking today. And these are actually smart glasses companies. Can you believe that? They've been pushing this idea for decades and are still able to bring new products to market. But a lot of them were also acquired. Yeah. So a lot of the DNA that we saw back then in 2010 is now in products, from the Vision Pro to the Meta Quest, and with Snap and with Niantic and many others. But I think it's really about, just despite some of the ups and downs in this industry, to keep pushing it, to keep believing in it, and that passion is something that people cannot resist. At least, those who are really in it, they keep coming. If you come to an AW event, you'll see everybody saying, this is like a family reunion. So today, the event in the US, just a few weeks ago, we had 5,000 attendees, and they still feel like it's a family reunion, although a lot of new people are joining, because there's sort of a friendship and collaboration in this tech sector that you don't see in others. I believe part of it is because of the hardship, because how hard it is to really build an XR.
Yeah.
So long, so much, kind of so many headwinds. But I feel like now, kind of the main theme of my keynote this year was that XR is going mainstream because we have everything in place. The hardware is good enough, the tools have matured, and AI is absolutely helping to accelerate and reduce a lot of the hard work.
Yeah.
So we have everything in place, and now it's really up to everyone in the industry, to the builders, to the creators, to create content that matters to every person on earth, and that's how we conquer the mainstream.
Yeah. Now, do you think the thing itself has to happen, the more content? And what do you think in terms of misconception? Like, what is the biggest misconception that people have about the space?
Well, first of all, if you read the news, especially last year, you would see a lot of headlines that say VR is dead and things like that. And that's, first of all, absolutely not true. The industry this year is a $30 billion industry.
Wow.
And if you compare it with others, it's pretty much the same size as the global film industry. You can imagine, 120-year-old industry. It's pretty much the same size. So it's definitely out there. It's kicking, and a lot of people are using it. So that's one misconception. The other is that that with all the struggles that companies are having, people think it's really hard. I mean, it's unimaginable to have like something on your face. That is heavy, that is not comfortable. Why would people want to do that? But once you see people for the first time, whether it's kids or even, elderly, they realize this is doing something that they cannot achieve in any other way. So for me, it's always kind of a great confirmation that this new approach, whether, it's definitely going to improve in size and comfort, and it will be more fashionable, but that will be an essential way for the humanity to move forward, because it's a lot more intuitive. It gives you a lot more options to interact with the world, with each other, and have basically a better life. So that's kind of what's been driving me to overcome a lot of these skeptics out there.
Yeah. I can imagine, man. Well, this is truly amazing because, like you mentioned, like a huge misconception. You look at, for example, technology stack that exists today, just in Vision Pro, it's mind blowing. In terms of the vertical or industries, where do you think it's doing well? Which industry is doing well, and which industry there's a huge potential, but yet hasn't even scratched the surface?
Yeah, so I mean, when people think about VR, especially, they think about gaming, and it's true. There's a lot of successes in gaming. Some studios that have made millions and even hundreds of millions of dollars from selling games on VR platforms. So it's definitely an interesting place. But if you look at the overall XR market, or VR, consumer is only about 30% of this market, and 70% actually goes to enterprise. And that
Enterprise.
includes, of course, hardware, software, solutions. So, if you're a startup, if you're someone that is kind of looking to make a living, the enterprise market would be a lower hanging fruit right now, because they over the past decades have seen the value in deploying XR. It improves their productivity, reduces costs, improves safety. So all these kind of important things for businesses. And there's proven ROI, proven case studies, pretty much for every single industry you can think of. To answer your question, where do we see the most traction? In manufacturing, aerospace, automotive are some of the biggest adopters of this, whether it's from the manufacturing floor through training.
Okay.
And training is probably the number one use case right now we see in XR. And that's across all industries. Even I've seen some applications for attorneys that help them train on their job. But definitely, in all sorts of manufacturing workers, maintenance, real estate, healthcare, and pharma is a big one. Built environment. So it's really across many industries, not to mention defense, where, it's always been a big driver for investments and funding for AR and VR. And it's still one of the biggest sectors right now.
Interesting.
Where it hasn't been adopted much yet, I think, probably financial services, which there are some really interesting use cases there. A lot of financial managers, they have, like, multiple screens all around them,
It's probably
physical
is it
screens.
heavily regulated, maybe, I would say. What do you think? That's why?
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, if you just convert all these physical screens into virtual screens, and there are companies that do it in a really simple way today, I think it doesn't really going to hit any regulatory barrier, but it basically gives you the same setup that you have in your office anywhere, even on a plane or when you travel. So there's a lot of advantages there that I think will be more adopted in the coming years.
Good ones. Or I'm truly enjoying this conversation. It's been a long time. I would love to see you in New York when I come later in a few months' time. This is a short format conversation, so I always ask this last question to my guests. What does the word bold mean to you?
I think that it defines kind of the XR industry and kind of my journey in the past 20 years. It's something that nobody knew about, nobody believed in, and still there's a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of innovators out there that are working on pushing it forward. It's definitely bold, but I think even today it's even more important because, like I said, all the conditions are there, and now it's really about bold people, bold builders to come in and build content for every single person on this planet. And that's how eventually we conquer the mainstream and everyone uses AR and VR to improve their lives and work.
Awesome. Be a bold builder, XR, VR. Ori, great seeing you, my friend. Until next time, take care, be great, and be bold always.
Thank you, Epi. It's been awesome and bold.